Perfect. Hello and welcome everyone to Intuitively Tuned In with Kylene Cox. I am your host and I am so excited about today because I have my great guest, Libby. So go ahead and introduce yourself, Libby.
Hi, everyone. My name is Libby Duffy. I am Yogini Witch Libby. I'm a yoga teacher, a tarot reader, and I'm a witchy mindset coach. And I'm going to be talking to you guys about what it means to live mindfully today.
Yay, such an important topic and I'm so excited. So let's just dive right in. When you are talking to someone for the very first time, I mean, mindfulness is becoming pretty regular, but
Mhm.
say it's the very first time. Where do you start? Where does your intuition lead you?
For a lot of it, it's just kind of like, okay, well, where are you now?
Mm.
But so what does that look like? How does that make you feel? Like making somebody think about their actual, like where they currently are and kind of stop and think and be like, how does that make me feel? How does my current situation make me feel? And then it's kind of like from there, it talks into like, okay, well, how do you want to feel? How do you want your life to look? And how are we going to get there? And living mindfully is a piece of that, of like, oh, I'm in control of my life essentially, and I get to be mindful about my actions, and I get to listen to my gut and go with my gut and just follow that pull of where my solar plexus tells me to go. And I get to take these breaks from my cell phone and put it down and go for a walk and just enjoy the feeling of going for a walk. Um, and of course, there's more with living mindfully than that, but that's generally my starting point, is just kind of getting people to think about how they're feeling in that moment. And that's always the starting point.
So that can seem so small, but it is so profound.
Right.
It's amazing, right? So often I feel like a lot of us aren't tuning into our body and how we feel in this moment, right? We're taking the victim role instead of the creator role. So absolutely love that. You mentioned going for a walk. How else do you recommend starting this journey of being mindful?
It depends on the person. It definitely depends on the person. For the person such as myself, who if you ask them to meditate for more than 10 minutes, they aren't going to do it. Like I can't sit still for 10 minutes, and that's just the way I am. So I use walk as, like, I like movement. I like mindful movement in that sense. So walk is a part of it. Meditation is a part of it, if that is somebody's jam. Gratitude journaling at the end of the day and listing out the things that happened and that you're grateful for is a part of it. And even just journaling in general and getting that sense of, oh, well, how am I feeling in this moment? Or, oh, something stressful happened and I'm trying to get to the root cause of what triggered me, and that kind of thing. So those are a couple of other things that I found really helpful when it comes to living mindfully. Um, and it really is, I think it could be summed up with anything that makes you stop and think about how you are currently feeling and how your body is currently reacting to something, instead of just kind of like, oh, well, this sucks, and then going on a tangent about why this all sucks and, oh, why is this happening? And instead tuning into where you currently are and being like, oh, well, maybe this isn't so bad. Maybe this is working for me in some way. And we always talk about, oh, the universe works in mysterious ways, but it really does.
Right.
And I've found that living mindfully kind of helps you pull yourself out of that negative feedback loop that your brain kind of gets you going on, and even changing the feedback loop to more of a positive shift.
Yes, yes, I love that. I like this idea, of coming back to this moment that you're in, and then like you get to set the intention, right? So, can you, my gut saying, let's talk about intention. So, what does your gut say to that?
Oh my God. So Yogini, which Libby is in the name. So like anything in my life has to deal with intention. Witchcraft is all about intention.
Mhm.
Mindfulness, it's all about intention. Affirmation, it's all about intention. And I feel like, would when you wake up in the morning, You get to decide what you're doing that day. You get to set the tone for the day. And if your intention, if you stare at yourself in the mirror and you're like, I'm going to have a good day today.
Mhm.
I am capable of having a good day. I am going to go out there and do the best that I can, then that's what you're going to do. You've sent the intention, you've spoken it to the universe,
Mhm.
and it's going to lead you to that good day. It's going to lead you to crushing the job interview and all of those types of things where before I feel like intention is saying what you want and then your brain will follow. Okay, well, how am I going to get there? I said I'm going to have a good day. How am I going to get to having a good day?
I love that. And I know that something you are passionate about is helping people find that happiness, that good day.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit more about your journey. So you offer so many amazing things. Where'd you start?
Oh my God.
It's what kind
I
of
actually
like I was born, but
I mean I could go back that far. I mean
yeah, right.
I was raised by a yoga teacher. So like if you want me to go
That's
back to
amazing.
5-year-old my 5-year-old self starting yoga, like I can go that far
Yeah.
for you if you want. But um I actually I think I posted about this recently where I was just kind of like, okay, how did I get into the current journey that I'm on? Because I could talk about so many things here. I can talk about my high school experience and being the weird girl. I could talk about like this, that, and the other thing. But for me, I feel like it started when I was 24, 25. I got married to my first husband when I was 23. We got divorced 8 months later.
Okay.
And instead, because instead of following my intuition and listening to my gut, I convinced myself like, oh no, everything's fine. Oh
Mm.
no, it's just wedding planning stress. Oh no, everything's okay. Like you don't need to worry. Everything's going to work out. Once the wedding is over, you're going to settle down. I did not. So and so by not listening to my gut, I ended up going through this divorce. And after the divorce, it was just kind of like, okay, well, I've been with this person for 5 years.
Mm.
I've been with this person pretty much all through college. Now, who am I after this person and rediscovering my sense of self? So through that, I started getting, I mean, like I said, I've been doing yoga since I was 5, but after that point, that was when yoga started becoming a daily practice.
Mm.
Um, and I would try to meditate a few times a week. I wasn't a daily meditator at that point. And I think maybe my 25th birthday was when my mom bought me my first Oracle deck. And then from there, like it was just like buck wild. I started getting into tarot and I started researching crystals and I started researching astrology and I've started doing all of those things. And it was just kind of like, finding my sense of self and figuring out what my purpose was and trying to figure out like the meaning behind the universe and the world and higher power because I feel like we're all trying to create our own thing that fits our life.
Mhm.
Um so that's kind of the best version of where I started and then from there 2020 had my child in February of 2020 right before pandemic kicked off into full swing.
Oh.
Um a great time. And then I lost my job that summer because of grant contracts. I had been working for a nonprofit and my grant contract didn't get renewed. And I was just kind of like, well, what if I had already completed my yoga teaching certification? So I was like, what if I just start doing it myself? What do I and I wasn't fully committed. I still had the mindset of, oh, I'm going to go back to work and find a new full-time job and yoga is just going to be my hobby. And then as things kept progressing and I kept on seeing more in the world, it just got to the point where I was like, no, this needs to be my full-time thing. How do I make this my full-time
Yes,
thing?
absolutely.
And which is why and I landed on mindset coaching because I was just kind of like, well, I've experienced all of these really kind of crazy things and I have transformed myself from very anxious and kind of socially awkward into somebody who's focused, driven, and confident. So
Mm.
why can't I help other people find their own driven, focused, and confident versions of themselves?
Absolutely, and I think that is so powerful right now. Like, so many people are ready to step up and be like, "I can do this," and, like,
Right.
how am I supported along this journey? So, what does coaching look like, feel like, mean to you? Because I know it means something different to everyone, right?
Yeah. I really, for me, what it means for me is I don't even personally know if I vibe with the word coach, and I'm not sure if I'm going to
Okay.
continue using it for so long because I feel like for me it's about empowering another person and making them feel like they have this person who's in their corner and who's whispering to them, you don't have to do this thing that's making you miserable just because it's the safe, the easy,
Mhm.
the expected route. So, and for me, when I was engaged to my first husband and like going through these thoughts of like, oh, well, I don't know if this is right. And then convincing myself that it was, it's just kind of like, I feel like that was all of my self-talk convincing myself that this is what is expected of me, and therefore, since it's expected of me, this is what I have to do. So, I'm all about empowering a person to realize they don't have to do the things that are expected to of them. They are allowed to choose their own path and do their own thing. And I think that's something that not everybody is told, that they are allowed to choose their own path. They are allowed to live their most confident, most best version of themselves.
Definitely. I mean, I would assume everyone at some point as a child was told, like, "No, be quiet," right? And then you hold on to that, and then you get into your 20s and your 30s, and you're like, "Wait a second,
Mhm.
not that little
And
kid anymore."
yeah, and I mean, I don't know if my mother's going to see this at all and be when I post this about this on Instagram. So if she does, mom, I'm sorry. But when I was a senior in high school, I didn't want to go to college,
Mm,
but that was quickly shot down because by my parents because they were like, "Oh, well, we're going to help you pay for it." And two, you get straight A's, like you're so smart, why wouldn't you go to college? And I was just kind of like, well, I wanted to do auto mechanics.
oh,
And
how cool.
I like because that was something that I had an interest in and it was very quickly shut down.
Mm,
And so like those things that you hold on to when you're 17, 18 years old, where it's just kind of like, oh, well, you have to go to college because you get straight A's. And it's just like, no, you don't. You can go to a trade school if a trade school makes you happy.
right. Yeah, and I definitely think there is a shift in that direction. I think
Yeah.
more people are waking up to this idea that, like, what makes me happy, right? Because I was right there with you. I always knew I wanted to be a massage therapist, and I was told, "Go to college," right? Everyone goes to
Mhm.
college. Well, I made it 2 years, and then I went to massage school.
Hey, I got the master's degree and I have
Yeah.
all of the student loan debt that goes along with it. And it's just kind of like, what if I had done auto mechanics?
Yeah. I'm sure you probably would have ended up right where you are because you are like, I watch
Probably.
your yoga videos and I am just blown away. So anyone watching this, you have to check her out on Instagram. Absolutely amazing. I watch your videos and I'm like, "Okay, I'm just gonna pretend that my body's doing that," because at this point it can't.
I do also want to say I was a gymnast and a dancer
Ah,
for a lot of my life. So a lot of it is just latent flexibility from when I did acrobatics and gymnastics. So,
must
um,
be nice.
yeah.
Well, and also practicing yoga since you were 5, I mean.
Right, right. Right. So disclaimer for anybody seeing
Yeah.
this who doesn't currently do yoga, you don't have to be flexible to do yoga. Yoga will teach you to be flexible.
Mhm. Yeah,
Just throwing that out there.
right, and it's taking that moment to sit down and be like, "Okay, I'm gonna be present for myself," because
Right.
often I choose meditation over doing that stretching, and
Right.
that's just me, but I have a goal, be inspired by Libby, do more yoga. Some other friends that I am definitely inspired by. Um,
Well, and sorry, I just want to jump in. I feel like that's a part of the mindful living thing where if you're tuning into your body and your body's saying stretch out, do yoga, then that sounds great. If you're tuning into your body and your body says no, sit still and meditate, then that's great too. It
right.
all depends on the person.
Absolutely. And that is so important. So my mind is jumping right now to tarot. What
Yep.
do we have to say about tarot?
Oh, I love tarot. I love it for so this is actually so timely. My podcast episode that I'm releasing for tomorrow is about tarot for healing. So,
Oh, of course.
little shameless plug of I feel like a lot of people see tarot as a way for like divination and looking at it of like, oh, what's going to happen next month? What's going to happen with this job interview? What's going to happen within the next year of my life? And that's all well and good, but for me, I've used tarot for healing quite a bit where it's like oh, a self reflection spread to see what the state of my current life is and
Ooh.
looking at different aspects of your life where so I feel like it helps me get out of my own head and stop overthinking about stuff because sometimes we as humans will fixate on a certain problem. And then it turns out that that problem wasn't the root cause to begin with. There was really a different root cause. And by addressing the root cause, you're able to change the problem. And I've used tarot for healing, for shadow work, for any sort of looking at chakras and that kind of thing, and being able to figure out what the root cause of my problem is has been so helpful instead of just kind of like, no, the problem is with my job. My problem is with my spouse, like those kinds of things. Then it's just kind of like, no, actually what you need to do is fix this. You actually need to work on your root chakra so that way you feel more stable and you feel more secure with your current situation. Things are not as bad as you think they are.
Yeah.
So I use tarot in that sense, and those are the kinds of sessions that I enjoy more than just the what basic, three card what's happening within the next week, next month, next year.
Absolutely. So let's say someone's sitting there right now and they're like, well, no, I think my cause is, like you said, the job, right? How does one make that new awareness or that shift, do you think, from that, okay, here's the surface, and I keep scratching at the surface, to then getting to the root cause? Like, do you have any other tips besides tarot or working with someone? Where does that lead you?
So for things like that, first, I want to check to see if that person is open to delving further into it. Because if they're not open with it, then I don't like I'm not the correct person for them, essentially. If they want to just continue believing that that problem is that problem, then okay, we can
Right.
talk about that problem. That's
And
fine.
there is no shame there,
There's
right?
no shame there. None whatsoever. I know I've talked about this before, but we're all dealing with some sort of stages of change model and we're all falling in a different spot. And if you're just at one spot, then that's fine. That's the spot that you are. But if somebody is more open to it, then I would ask them to delve a little deeper. So, say we'll use the job example because I feel like that's really fitting and a lot of people can probably relate to it. So, somebody says, no, the issue is with my job. I'm not being heard at meetings, and that's because there's a coworker who is always talking over me and stealing my ideas. We'll just you throw that out as an example. Um, from there, it's just kind of like, okay, well, first, how are you feeling about that? And frustrated, angry, upset, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, okay, well, um, have you what else where is this leading you in life? What is causing you to feel like when this happens, what else is happening because of it? If this is a catalyst, then it's just kind of like, oh, well, I feel depressed for the rest of the day. It's causing me to have issues with my spouse because I'm snapping because I had a bad day at work. And it's just like, well, that's not a good thing either, because that's also going to go on to your spouse,
Right.
and your spouse is going to have a bad day, and then it's all this ripple effect. Maybe we can delve a little deeper and see if there's another root cause that comes along with this. Um, when this coworker it starts talking, is it after a few moments of silence? Do you sit there and overthink your responses before you start talking about them, or do you just allow yourself to talk and you I'm guilty of this. I'm a person who will talk and be like, "Oh, I'm definitely going to get to my point. I'm definitely going to get to my point." But sometimes you need to verbally think your things through.
Right.
So it depends on the person, and it's just kind of like with that situation, if this person is waiting and waiting and just overthinking things instead of starting to talk about their ideas, and then maybe the coworker's just trying to fill the silence, and it just so happens that they start talking at the same time because the coworker's waiting, 30, 60 seconds to see if anybody else is, and then to fill the silence, the coworker's just kind of like starts talking right as that person's starting to talk. And it's like, okay, well, would you consider doing chakra work for your throat chakra, feeling like you can speak up for yourself? Are you willing to do anything around the root chakra to make yourself feel more stable or secure and that kind of thing? Or the sacral chakra for creativity, and or would you be interested in doing some affirmations or mindfulness techniques that help improve confidence and that sort of thing? So I feel like there are definite levels for people. And for some people, tarot is a no-go. They don't want to do it. There's too
Mhm.
many misconceptions out there in the world spread by uh different religions that
Right.
uh
Right.
say tarot is bad and you can't do it. And it's just kind of like, okay, that's cool. Like, you don't have to do tarot with me if you work with me. We can focus on meditations that might work for you. We can focus on affirmations. We can focus on vision boarding. We can focus on these other things that can help build confidence. It doesn't have to be tarot. And we can have conversations instead of doing a reading.
I love that. I love the fact that you're saying like, here's this thing. Now we're looking at it from all the angles, right? And you offer all these different angles to look at this one thing. So then you can that's how you invite people to get deeper.
Exactly.
Absolutely love that.
So there's this technique called motivational interviewing, which is used in different types of therapy. And since my background before in my current position was doing substance misuse prevention, I was exposed to a lot of motivational interviewing techniques. So that's kind of where all of it has come from. So it's like,
Oh,
I'm
interesting.
actually using science here. Like, this isn't just some weird crystal girl who's like, yeah, tarot cards, yeah, astrology. Like, there, I do my research, guys.
Absolutely. Hey, you got that master's.
I'm trying.
I love that. I love, love, love that. Okay, so let's wrap things up. First and foremost, do you want to share your beautiful intuitive message that you have for the world?
Oh my goodness. I feel like I could say so many things. I guess I just want to say that through living mindfully and keeping yourself aware in the presence of where you currently are can create so much joy and confidence. And for me, at least, it's helped decrease anxiety and feelings of like hopelessness and dread and like all of these really heavy feelings that have kept me down. And by living mindfully, it allows me to see the beauty in the world.
Oh, I love that. Absolutely love that. Okay. And so, anyone watching this, how can they work with you? I'll, of course, put your website in the description, but tell them all the ways they can get a hold of you, what working
Sure.
with you looks like, all of it. How do they get
So probably the easiest way is to DM me on Instagram. I'm Yogini Witch Libby. There's no spaces, no punctuation, none of that. It's all just one string. Um, I'm usually pretty quick to answer a DM because I've I feel like everybody's time is valuable and precious, and therefore I don't like to keep people waiting. I find it rude. So, um, that is probably the easiest way to go about it because I don't always get my Gmail notifications right away. So if you want something that's more of like, "Oh, I'll get back to you in 20 minutes," then Instagram is probably the way to go. I'm also on Facebook, also just at Yogini Witch Libby. I'm fairly easy to find, luckily. So and then working with me happens in a few different ways. I do a lot of stuff just right there on my Instagram page. I do Instagram lives around the new moons for guided meditations. Um, and of course, on my website, you can find my yoga classes and that sort of thing. You can book a tarot reading. You can um, reach out about possibly working together for a one-on-one mindset coaching. So, right now, I don't have any master classes scheduled at the moment, but I will be doing a few master classes. So if you're interested in that, follow me on Instagram because I'll be updating it there. But right now it's just one-to-one, private.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned your podcast, so go ahead and share that
Yes. So
here.
I run um a mindset podcast called The Spells We Tell Ourselves, and it's all about how our words create our reality and create our mindsets, and they are what we perceive the world to be essentially. Um, So you can find the spells we tell ourselves on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, almost everywhere you can get your podcasts, luckily. So,
Awesome, and it is fabulous. Definitely go check it out. You are gonna want to hear all about what Libby is sharing. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Libby, for joining me and
oh,
having
I'm
this
happy
wonderful
to.
conversation, and I look forward to the next one because I know this is just the beginning.
Oh, I'm sure.